This could be huge for Montreal, as newest mock drafts have basically a chalk outline saying that Demidov will land to Montreal, and even if not, Kaiden Lindstrom may just be the top guy, but not only him, his teammate from Medicine Hat, Andrew Bosch, has mocked to Montreal in a recent mock draft. We have to get into that, plus a big update on the Marty Necas trade situation, and finally an update on the Juraj Slafkovsky contract that will be coming this summer, all coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. And we're going to start with the Slaf and Guhle contracts. Jesse, now Arpen Basu wrote a really nice piece in The Athletic, and as always, guys, for all the articles that we'll be talking about today, you can find them in the description down below. But he wrote an article kind of talking about what the Montreal Canadiens could do with these contracts, with the cap increasing and the implications of that. Now, we spoke a little bit at length in our video a few days ago about how that could implicate some trades, the Slaf Guhle extensions, but we didn't dive totally into the numbers, but Arpen did. And he actually had a very interesting take. Now, this is a lot of text here. You can pause and read it if you like, but I'll summarize the end of it. He said that if you take Slafkovsky and you want to give him the same percentage of the cap that Caufield got when he signed the contract, Slaf's new contract would be $8.65 million per year. Now, Jesse, I feel like that's a little unrealistic. I feel like they're going to try and keep him below, like even Arpen says in this article, right? I feel like you're going to try and keep him below Suzuki and Caufield because that's just what makes sense. Slafkovsky's younger, whatever. But if he wants his fair market value, he's going to have to go up and up and up with that new cap increase. This is one thing that we figured might happen, but I don't know. Do you think the Habs could go above 8? Do you see Slaf getting more money than Suzuki and Caufield?
I don't see him getting more money than Suzuki, but it could be close. And it's only really in large thanks to Slavzilla, right? Because, you know, his agent's going to be talking about that cap percentage, but Slav, it's not going to be as big of a deal for him, right? Which is actually so amazing, right? But I feel like we're going to get this number right. But I don't know about you, Josh. Like, do you feel like comfortable tomorrow giving Slav that contract? Or do you want to just see just a little bit more so you can maybe feel better on both sides? What's your thoughts on that?
Nah, give it to him tomorrow. Give it to him yesterday. I like, as soon as July hits and as soon as the Habs are eligible to give him this extension, I want to lock him up. I'm done with the I want to see more. I've seen enough from him, quite honestly, and I think that if you get the opportunity to sign it, like, I mean, it depends on if he's going to accept that kind of, I guess, I don't know about lower AAV, right? Even if it's around $8 million, like, he could turn down an $8 million AAV saying like, nah, let me prove some more and you're going to pay me 10. I guess that's a possibility, but I just don't see that happening. I think he loves the core, and I think this is going to be a super long-term thing. Are you kind of on board with that as well?
Yeah, love the confidence, you know, from that. You know, they did wait a little bit longer with Cole. I think it could be reasoned. Like, I wouldn't begrudge the Montreal Canadiens for doing it just because it is a long-term thing and you definitely want to feel good on both sides. But Slav, he's just the type of guy where I think the production's going to be there. And the beauty about him is just about, you know, the team player that he is. You got to feel like he's not going to try and juice the Montreal Canadiens for all that he can. He's going to take something fairly friendly within the structure of the Montreal Canadiens to really allow us to build out from there.
Yeah, for sure. And one little note on Guhle. Now, Arpen also did talk about this as well, how this could affect Guhle. And you look at some other guys who have gotten some interesting contracts, and we see Alex Vlasic with Chicago getting a $4.6 million AAV. And if that's what Guhle was probably looking for more than Vlasic because he honestly deserves it. But Guhle's profile to what he projects to is I mean, it's not the same as Vlasic, but it's at least kind of similar. Also kind of similar in some ways to Jake Sanderson. Now with the cap going up, Jesse, I'm starting to get the feeling Guhle's going to demand $6 million. And at that $6 million price point, that's my gut feeling now. Would you be comfortable signing him to like a 6x6 type deal? To me, I think I would, because I can see him being like a number 2 guy on a contending team, if not a number 1 guy on Montreal that's still trying to get into that tier. I feel like 6x6 is what he's going to want. At least $6 million a year. Is that too much for you? Because I feel like there's a lot of people who are worried about his injury history, Jesse, and worried about the offensive production.
I'm not worried about the injuries. I'm not worried about the offensive production yet.
Yeah.
We're not at a point where we can kind of look at Kaiden Guhle. Like, he's playing off his off wing. He's one of our youngest defensemen being put into some of our most difficult situations, Josh. So, you know, by those accounts, what you're saying about $6 million, that's fair in a lot of ways. Now, I think, you know, Kent, he wants the large overall like vision. He wants to do right by the players, but of course, the more we can kind of save here and there, if we could get him like on a 5.5, I think that would be something that obviously you'd feel so good about. Even maybe a little bit of a steal. I don't know. It's hard to ask for all of your players to kind of take those team friendly deals. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I feel like that's the type of culture we have in Montreal where we'll kind of, get the value, but have the idea, okay, that, we're trying to build something bigger here. But I mean, obviously, I think that he's going to be an amazing player for a long time to come. So we should be looking to lock him up very shortly.
I think 5.5 would be great. Let us know your thoughts on these two guys' contracts down below. We'd love to hear from you as we got to move on to the second topic. A lot to talk about. And in Arpen's recent article, he kind of made a little statement about Necas and Zegras, two guys that have been linked to the Habs at the hip. Well, Zegras for a good chunk of the season, Necas most of the offseason, because he's the guy that most closely fits the bill of what Montreal is looking for in a trade candidate, like they've done with Dach and Newhook. But Arpen said this, Jesse. I'm going to bring this up here. Not that. That's the wrong one. We'll get to that later. He said this time the Canadiens are not intertwined in anything. They're not even the front runners, but they're still exploring for guys on the trade market, namely Marty Necas and Trevor Zegras. He went on to say that even if the Habs were to agree to build a deal around Matheson for Necas, because of course the Hurricanes want an established star, they would then need to sign Necas to a big contract. He's ready to get paid, and he said it doesn't really make sense. Finally, he said, if we had to guess, the Habs will probably not be engaged with these two players this offseason. As it stands, they would probably sit these out and focus their attention on teams looking to acquire what they have to sell. This is, a bit of an unfortunate update. Like, I'm sure they're still going to try and knock on the door, Jesse, but based on what Caroline is saying, based on what other reporters are saying, and finally now based on what Arpen is saying, it seems like this, what we once thought was a match made in heaven, might just not be made to be. This is kind of sad update. Honestly, I was hoping to see something around Necas, but I kind of get what he's saying.
No, definitely. I get where he's coming from, definitely with this. Like, the Montreal Canadiens are all about moving forward at this point in time. Maybe if it didn't require like a Matheson again, not that he's completely untouchable, but just because our decor is so young. If there's one thing, you just don't want to throw them out to the wolves, right? And you don't really want to play with too much we have. While I would really love adding a player like Necas, I think he brings a lot to this team. At the same time, like, I'm not going to lose any sleep over, especially like Zegras, just because, in our top six, where this player is going to come, we'll have a healthy Dach next year. We still don't know fully what a Newhook would be. We still need to improve on these players a little bit, but I really feel like we're going to get our top six player. And when we do that, we're going to need to pay, and we're going to need to feel really good. I think we're getting our top six player when it's truly the fit. We're going to be like trading Mike Matheson, no problem, to really get this solidifying piece to really kind of take us over the edge, because we need that talent, right? So that definitely means paying. I think that he could bring a lot to this team, but and I'm not going to rule it out completely. I think that Necas, there's still some possibilities there all the same, but at the same time, I definitely believe that it's like, we're going to know when the time is right, and it's definitely not the moment to be selling the farm right now.
Yeah, and like Arpen says, you don't want to do a lateral move. I think it's a very good point. Like myself, I love to get excited about potential trades. You guys know that. We love to get hyped. Every single potential trade, we're on board with it because it's the most fun thing to talk about. Guys that Montreal could trade for, big changes with the team. And when you hear news like this, it kind of hurts your heart a bit, but you do know that Kent is out there looking. He's out there hunting for something around the draft. A lot of rumors are pointing to him trying to make some kind of deal either before or at the draft, so we'll have to wait and see whether it's Necas or Zegras. Probably not, but hey, I think we might be surprised at something that he'll be able to pull off. So, Jesse, on that note though, on what he might be able to pull off, we got to move into the final topic of the video. And some more mock drafts. Yes, I know, guys, but stick with me here. This is some awesome stuff. Now, The Athletic, they've already done. Corey Prom and Scott Wheeler, these guys have done their mock drafts where they've kind of had some information from scouts. They've released the information from executives and stuff. And the big takeaway, Jesse, is that they have kind of come to a consensus order for the top five. By all accounts, not everyone, but it seems like the prevailing opinion is that it's going to go Macklin Celebrini, Artyom Levshunov, Anton Silayev, Kaiden Lindstrom at 4, and then Ivan Demidov to Montreal at number 5. And we'll get into this right now. So they have Ivan Demidov coming to Montreal, and this is Arpen Basu this time making this pick. So it's the reporters for each team making the picks, but the order stayed the same as what Prodman's mock draft was. So he basically said this would take a lot of the debate off the table, and while Demidov's skating is not perfect and his size is not ideal, the Habs view him as a potential game-breaking talent, something they sorely lack in their pipeline. And I completely agree. It's good to hear the Habs feel that way, Jesse, because sure seems like some executives don't share that opinion. I mean, to hear Arpen say this as well, that he believes the Habs see him as that game-breaking talent, just gets me quite excited and thinking that, yeah, you know what? These reports, they might just be smoke and mirrors. We won't know until the draft, but all signs right now are pointing to this.
And I'm definitely here for it, right? And I'm not seeing, like, I just don't get why I'm seeing Ivan Demidov dropping so low in so many drafts, right? We're talking about consensus best hands,
Mhm.
consensus best offensive player. Like, I believe when Macklin Celebrini and Ivan Demidov are at their peaks, like, Demidov is going to be getting more points while still playing a good defensive game, right? Like, I just really don't get the drawbacks for this player at all, right? So obviously it's very interesting to see Lindstrom now surpassing Demidov, right? I don't know if either of us really saw this happening. We know what a great player that Lindstrom is, right? And there's a lot of rumors right now that, you know, the Montreal camp is all about size. They're like, okay, this is what really wins, you know, in the playoffs, you know, and obviously it's all about that balance. You know, obviously you need the size. They're definitely not wrong in thinking that size wins the playoffs, but you need that skill as well, right? That's why I feel like this is something that the Montreal Canadiens need. So I'm really not too worried about that in any type of way.
No, you're very right. Like, that's the thing. Montreal has built their team with size. They have Reinbacher, they have Slafkovsky, they have Kirby, Dach. You know, and I get the worry about getting someone undersized, whether it's like a Kaiden or a Demidov, but like Kaiden also projects to play center at the NHL level simply because of his face-off acumen and his intelligence. But I get the concerns, but that game-breaking offensive talent is going to be amazing. So, I mean, we always talk about Demidov, but that's not necessarily the full focus of this, Jesse. I want to talk about something else in this mock draft, and that 26th pick is something very, very interesting, and we're going to get into it here. And Arber has the Habs taking Andrew Basha from Medicine Hat. He said he's not convinced the Habs will make that pick. He thinks he says in all likelihood it'll be included in a trade prior to the draft, which is kind of a bold statement in and of itself. But he said, hey, if Basha's there, you take him. He said he has an NHL projectable game, and Basha can play anywhere in the lineup from first line to fourth. And Jesse, the big thing with Andrew Basha is he was Cayden Lindstrom's line mate in the WHL. And take a look at these numbers here. 85 points in 63 games, while not like completely jumping off the board at you. 55 assists in 63 games is amazing. He looked to be one of the better players on the ice at all times with Medicine Hat. Of course, Cayden Lindstrom was phenomenal, but Basha made a lot of these plays happen. He is a fantastically skilled guy. He is super quick, and he's very intelligent, and his skating is not bad either. He's a really, really interesting player. And can you imagine a world where the Habs get Lindstrom and Basha, two buddies? Something the Habs like to do, like you've said before we started recording. You got Mesar, we got the brother connections, you know, all through the last number of years, of course, with the Xhekaj, all this stuff. So I think this could be a really nice, underrated sleeper pick for Montreal.
Well, Josh, there's actually rumors, though, that this pick could actually get traded as the Montreal Canadiens look to improve in the immediate future.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that just feels so good to say, right? We know everything we've been doing is about building towards the future, but as we start kind of shaping into that competitor, right? There's a lot of rumors we might trade this 26 overall pick, you know, but anyway, if we end up holding on to that, I think that we could get a solid player in Andrew Basha again, you know, just that compete level, you know, that combination of having that Quebecois in him, but, you know, having that West Coast as well. I think is just such a great, you know, duo of different talents there. And of course, you know, we know his skating, you know, his speed that very much, you know, fits this Montreal Canadiens game. And we know we're all about the culture. We're all about the team. So it almost makes sense, you know, just like with Florian and Arber, we got Mesar and Slav. Could we have now Basha and then Lindstrom as well? Yet to be determined, but a very interesting player.
It'd be amazing. Yeah, Franco-Albertan, very interesting thing, right? Such an interesting connection if he were to be drafted by Montreal. You don't often see Franco-Albertans, but hey, he's from Calgary, but he speaks French. It's pretty cool. But let us know, what about Andrew Basha? He's not a guy we've talked a whole lot about except in Cayden Lindstrom segments. So we'd love to hear from you guys down below about your thoughts of this sleeper 26th pick. But for now, that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you, everyone, for your support every single day. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.